Can you hear me and see me now?
I can hear you. I cannot see you. There you are. Okay. Now on your computer with the video, mute. Go ahead and mute that.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have
Disconnect
something
your
on it?
audio on the computer.
Yeah, we
Disconnect
muted
your
it now.
computer audio.
Okay, we've got it, I think. All right, we will be on the record in Bingham County case CR 0620-2067, State of Idaho versus Eric Lords. Mr. Lords is appearing by video. He is represented by Mr. Jim Archibald, who's appearing by video. State is represented by Bingham County prosecuting attorney Paul Butikofer, also appearing by video. So as we go through this, I'm just going to apologize to everybody in advance. If you see my head get really close to the screen, it's because I've had some eye issues and I don't have my contacts in. So sometimes I have to get closer to see what I'm trying to read here.
Your Honor, this is Paul Butikofer. Mr. Rogers is going to be handling this case.
Did I say Butikofer? I meant Mr. Rogers. Mr. Archibald, are you ready to proceed then?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Rogers is the state.
We are, Your Honor. I don't have a pre-sentence investigation, but I don't know if.
I don't know why you don't, because they were filed back on March 12th.
Okay.
I hadn't received my copy either from the IDOC, and so your clerk emailed me a copy because something must have happened to the service, because so I did receive mine from your clerk.
I'm prepared to go forward though today, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Archibald, have you had a chance to review that with your client?
Yes.
Mr. Lords, did we lose your video?
It just keeps coming in and out. So it'll pop up and then it pops out. Here I am now.
Right.
I don't know what's said. It's very frustrating.
All right. Are you ready to proceed then, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Archibald?
Yes.
Mr. Lords, at the time of your arraignment on August 31st, 2020, you were informed that an information had been filed charging you with grand theft. At that time, you were advised of the potential penalties involved, your constitutional rights, your plea options, and the effect of exercising each of the plea options. You then pled not guilty to the charges. However, on February 2nd, 2021, you again appeared in court with your attorney, and pursuant to a plea agreement with the state, you withdrew your previous plea of not guilty and entered a plea of guilty to the charge of grand theft. The parties agreed as a condition of that plea to recommend probation. You agreed to pay full restitution. All other terms, the parties were free to argue, and it was a non-binding plea agreement, which means if I do not follow the recommendations of your attorney or the state's attorney, you would nevertheless not have the right to withdraw your guilty plea. After you pled guilty, I ordered the pre-sentence report. A copy of that has been furnished to the court, and I have reviewed it. Copies were furnished to the parties. Mr. Archibald indicated he did not receive that until today, but has had a chance to review that. State indicated they don't have it, but they're prepared to go forward. We're now set for sentencing. Mr. Archibald, do you have any clarifications or corrections to the pre-sentence report?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me pull it up in the different software here so I can make any changes. Give me just 1 second. All right, go ahead.
On page 3, top of page 3, it says that he paid restitution on 2 occasions. However, there is 2,500 in suspicious expenditures that were not paid back. We've been through this, Your Honor. He paid the first 3,700. He paid back when they said that's how much you owe. And then through the prosecuting attorney, they said, oh, you owe another 3,700. So Mr. Lords paid that. Though I didn't hear about this 2,500 in suspicious expenditures until I read it in the pre-sentence report. And we went through this process in being unable to reach a plea agreement because we needed the final numbers. And that's why the plea agreement wasn't entered sooner, is because we needed the final numbers. So Mr. Lords has paid in full. There shouldn't be any question about that. And unfortunately, they did this to Christy Burton as well, another employee at Shelley School District, saying that she owed another 40,000. And we didn't reach an agreement, we went to mediation on that issue. And finally, the state of Idaho withdrew that request because there's just no proof. And so I don't want the court to think that there's anything that Mr. Lords has not paid that he should have. And so I'm objecting, asking that be stricken, that page or that sentence of suspicious expenditures, that be stricken on page 3.
All right, Mr. Rogers, any objection?
Your Honor, just to add to that, maybe I've received a letter. I believe it was kind of followed up with Mr. Archibald. That he has, and it's just a letter from Chad Williams saying that he paid off the final amount. And so there should be no restitution owed.
So I'll go ahead and strike that. Any other clarifications or corrections?
No, thank you.
All right, so court has stricken the second sentence of the first full paragraph of page 3 of the PSI. The notes and strike through is in red on the pre-sentence report. Any clarifications or corrections from the state?
No, Your Honor, not to my knowledge.
All right. Any witnesses for the defendant?
I submitted a number of character letters last week. There were his children, his parents, his friends, relatives submitted letters. I wanted to make sure that the court received those. And then I also received some more over the weekend, and unfortunately have not been able to file those today because I've been in Zoom court just like Your Honor has. And so I'll just reference the new letters that I received during my argument. These people who submitted letters will submit those in lieu of testimony today.
Right. I received those, and given the number of them, I read through those this morning. Do you have any objection to the court considering those, Mr. Rogers?
There's only one that I have an issue with, Your Honor, and it was with, I think, a Brad Lords. I don't remember the name. I thought it was with a Brad Lords, and it just talked about a divorce, that he was going through a divorce. But when I looked up the divorce date, it happened after the incident. So I just asked for that letter to be held out, and the other ones I don't have any issue with.
All right, I'll go ahead and consider it, but not that particular issue. So
Okay.
Mr. Archibald, then before I impose sentence, you may speak on behalf of the defendant.
Thank you. Your Honor, this is an unfortunate case of Mr. Lord's stealing money from the school district as the principal, and he's had his license revoked. He's been humiliated. His wife was humiliated, and she divorced him. Mr. Rogers is right. The divorce happened after the investigation, and so Mr. Lords has just been he's just lost everything, as these letters indicate, from his family and friends. He's trying to make a comeback, and he's doing well. He's employed at Anytime Fitness. That's one of the letters I received over the weekend. Is his employer submitted a letter saying he's a great employee. He's responsible and well liked, and he has a job. That was one of the questions in the pre-sentence report. Is the pre-sentence investigator had a question about his employment, and so I did receive a letter confirming that he's well liked and responsible. His children, I've talked to his children in person and also reviewed their letters. They support him, they love him, and are happy that he's on the road back to make amends. I received letters from school teachers who, again, were shocked that this happened. It's not the Eric Lords that they knew, and are glad that he's making it right. They're all forgiving and understanding, and so Eric is fortunate to have such good friends and a good support group. As the pre-sentence report indicates, this is his first time offense. Never been in trouble. He's well educated. He's been responsible. So how does a person like this? How does it end up? Why does he steal? And that's something that he's working on. He's been proactive and gone to talk to a doctor about his impulses, about his depression, and hopefully he'll get some help there. And I have no doubt that he'll figure it out. So in paying back the $7,000 and change, it's he shouldn't have taken it. He knows he shouldn't have. He should have paid his own bills instead of using the school credit card for some personal expenses. And he's ashamed, and he's been publicly humiliated, and he's paying the price for that. So I'm asking for a withheld judgment and probation. I think the state of Idaho likewise agrees to recommend probation. We appreciate that. And we're hoping that he can do community service in lieu of jail time. That the jail time will, of course, set him back on his employment. Well, I don't know if the jail is allowing work release anymore with COVID, or if they just have the work detail program. But in any event, we're asking for community service in lieu of jail, that he can still pay his price to society by being punished, that a sentence of a withheld judgment and probation can still act as a deterrent. The public humiliation is the biggest punishment that first-time offenders, successful people, that's the biggest price that they pay, is the shame of embarrassing their family and friends and children. And so that is a punishment. The society doesn't need to be protected from Eric. He's paid back the money, and he's taken steps to make sure this doesn't happen again. So with these letters, I appreciate the court reviewing the ones that I sent last week and the other letters I received over the weekend. School teachers, students, and another school teacher and his boss, his nephew even wrote a letter saying my uncle is a great guy. And I guess I can give you a personal note, Your Honor, that 3 of my kids were student body presidents at Shelley High School and knew Eric Lords, and they all said the same thing to me. What a great guy! What a good leader, and what shock to find out that he had stolen money. But they support him. None of my kids said anything bad about him, and they're hoping that he can make amends and satisfy his debt to society. So that's my recommendation, that the court give community service in lieu of jail, withheld judgment, and probation.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rogers, state's recommendation.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, this case was fairly large, especially in the Shelley community, and it has awakened a lot of interest, and we've received a lot of interest in our office on calls for updates on this case and how it was going. For the gravity of this case and the importance of it, I just think it should be noted that Idaho State Police took this over for investigation, and they did a fantastic job. And I know it took a little while, but there was a lot to dig through. And so I appreciate their efforts that they were able to give us this case. It resulted in a very good working relationship with Mr. Archibald and in working in agreement. And it's because of the information that was provided through the investigation. So I appreciate that. And given the significance of this case, Your Honor, and the interest, I know there's a lot of support that was given to Mr. Lords through the letters, and there's some community and coworkers, and as Mr. Archibald was saying, students of this school. On the other side of the coin, though, there is a lot of disheartened public that has reached out to our office, and as such, I don't believe this is a case that we should be taking overly lightly. And with that, Your Honor, we are asking the court to follow the plea agreement that we've entered. We're asking for probation here today. We would be asking for 3 years fixed and 4 years indeterminate, and for that to be suspended. The big part of this whole case is that this is happening in a public school setting. The feeling I got from all of it was that it's affecting our taxpayers and their belief in or their trust in the school system. So we have to be able to make that up to the public. I agree with Mr. Archibald that I think that the way to pay it back to the public is through community service. So I would be asking for 200 hours of community service in lieu of jail time. I think that would be appropriate. The one thing that Madam Clerk was able to send me the PSI, and I gazed through it. And one thing that kind of came to light to me was we've had these people like Mr. Lords in these positions where they have good paying jobs. They seem to have stable family, and they're still partaking in this criminal activity. I don't think the activity should be taken lightly. It seems like there might be like a mental disconnect or something else going on that way where they feel the need to do this. And perhaps, I don't know if I've ever asked for this, Judge, and I don't know what the court can do about this, but maybe a part of a term of probation is counseling, outside counseling for the defendant to see if he needs to get some help from that end. It's kind of a financial sobriety, I guess. I don't know, but that's just the thought that came to mind when I was reading through this. And I know we've handled that in some cases in the past. So I thought I'd bring that up. Otherwise, Your Honor, I appreciate Mr. Archibald working with us, and those would be our recommendations to the court.
Thank you. Mr. Lords, do you wish to make a statement on your own behalf?
Yes, Your Honor. Just kind of just reiterate what you've heard from Mr. Archibald is that I am immensely apologetic for the decisions, the poor decisions I've made, and it's out of my character. I let people down, and I let my students down at Shelley High School that I really, really looked up to, as well as the teachers and staff, and then my family and friends. I let them down, and I hurt them, and I'm grateful that so many of them have stuck by me and want to see me be successful in life. And I just want to apologize to the court, the Shelley School District, Shelley community, and basically everyone in the East Idaho of who I've let down, and just apologize for my actions and poor decision making.
So, Mr. Lords, what happened? What led to even just the first incident?
It was just the want or need to give my family, my kids, everything, and the ability not to say no to them.
Okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Are you satisfied with the representation Mr. Archibald's provided to you?
Yes, Mr. Archibald has done a very good job.
Do you know of any legal reason why I should not sentence you today?
No, sir.
Mr. Archibald, do you?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Rogers, do you?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lords, when I sentence an individual, I have to consider the objectives of criminal punishment adopted by the Idaho Supreme Court, which includes protection of society, deterrence, rehabilitation, and punishment. I also have to consider the criteria under Idaho Code 1925-21 relative to the question of whether I should place you on probation or confine you in a prison. And I've considered all of those factors in your case. This is your first felony offense. You're 49 years of age. Your LSI score is a 4, which is probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest. I think I had a 2 once, but I'm not positive on that, but it's one of the lowest I've ever seen. It does put you in the low risk category. What that LSI score does is it tells me a couple of things: what the risk level is that you are to the public, but more importantly, it kind of helps develop programs for rehabilitation, and assesses the needs and the level of the treatment or other rehabilitative programs that should be employed in a case if you're given probation. There's no substance abuse issues. There are some mental health needs. It appears from my reading of the reports and the gain eye. Mr. Lords, I'm going to mute your phone here, so when I talk to you again, you'll have to unmute your phone, but I'm getting some feedback and it's bothering me, and I'm going to guess that it's bothering my court reporter. But there are some mental health needs, and in reviewing the report, it appears that a lot of that depression and mental health issues are a result of your criminal actions in this case, and the things that have been discussed here, the embarrassment that it's caused you, publicly and so forth. And I think that's probably the biggest issue. Obviously, you've suffered some other consequences of these actions where because of your choices, your spouse determined that she could no longer be married to you, sought the divorce. I'm sure that's contributed to the mental health issues and depression that you're suffering. But again, although that's an issue for this court to consider, that's really the result of the decisions that you've made in this case. When you weigh all those factors too, one of the difficult things then for a judge is to weigh that factor that you were a person of in a leadership position. Our principals and administrative authorities in our schools are examples, are supposed to be examples to our children that are individuals that they can look up to, aspire to be like, and you've basically let a lot of them down based upon this decision. But you're also a person who is in a position of public trust, and you violated that trust. And you did so not to take care of any real need, but for worldly possessions of and gain in that area. It's not, it doesn't excuse it if somebody takes this and goes buys food. You didn't do that. You weren't trying to meet your basic needs. You were using this on things that you didn't really need to. And so that's part of my concern. Based upon all those factors, it will be the judgment of this court that you be sentenced to the Idaho Department of Corrections for a fixed and determinate period of 3 years and an indeterminate period of 7 years. In other words, not less than 3 no more than 10. You're fined the amount of $1,000. Court costs are $245.50. Mr. Archibald, you are privately retained, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It appears that restitution has been paid, and that's one of the things that is a benefit in your case is that you've paid the restitution and you've done so prior to sentencing. Based upon all the circumstances, it will be the judgment of this court that the sentence be suspended and that you be placed on probation for a period of 5 years. During that time, you'll be under the supervision and direction of the Idaho Department of Probation, Parole, and this court. If you accept probation, you'll be subject to the standard terms and conditions of probation, as well as the following special conditions. I'm ordering that you complete 300 hours of community service. I'm going to order that you serve 50 days of local incarceration as a condition of your probation. That jail time will need to be completed within the next 6 months. So you'll need to arrange that jail time with your probation officer and the Bingham County Jail. Just make sure that you get that 50 days done within the next 6 months. Did you serve any time at all? You're muted, so you have to unmute.
No, Your Honor, he was summoned.
Okay. The community service will need to be completed within the next 18 months. You'll be responsible for the workers' comp fee associated with that service. As conditions of probation, you're to enter in a payment agreement with the court, make regular monthly payments on your fines, fees, and costs. You'll be required to pay a minimum of $50 per month on those fines, fees, and costs starting on June 1st of 2021. That payment will be due on the 1st of every month thereafter. You'll have a review hearing on that payment agreement. That will be the second Thursday of each month at 1:15. As long as you've made your payment for the month, you don't need to show up to that hearing. They will send you notice for the following month. And as long as you've made your payment for the following month, you do not need to show up to that hearing, and you continue that process. That process will continue until the payments on all your fines, fees, and costs are paid in full. You'll be required to provide a DNA sample and thumbprint to the state. You'll be responsible for the costs associated with providing that information. You're to maintain full-time employment or otherwise be enrolled in some type of educational, vocational training program. Going to require that you not use, possess, or consume any alcoholic beverages or controlled substances. You'll be subject to random testing. You'll waive your rights under the Idaho and United States Constitution regarding search of your person and your property. Going to order that you participate in a budgeting course and mental health counseling. Once those courses are done and the treatment providers release you from treatment, then those conditions will be satisfied. You'll be required to participate in any other programs as directed by your probation officer, and you're not to associate with those individuals specified by your probation officer. Now you'll need to unmute. I think it's *6 if I remember right on the phone. Okay. Do you understand those terms?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Do you understand those terms and conditions?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about them?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You're advised you have the right to appeal this decision. That appeal has to be filed within 42 days. You have the right to be represented by counsel on the appeal. If you cannot afford counsel, you can apply to have counsel appointed to represent you at public expense. Just remember, you only have 42 days in which to file the appeal. You may have the right to seek relief under Idaho Criminal Rule 35. That has to be filed within 120 days of entry of the judgment. And you may have the right to seek relief under the Idaho Uniform Post-Conviction Relief Act. That would have to be filed within 1 year from the date your appellate time expires. Do you understand those time frames?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you have questions about how or whether to pursue any of those matters, you can discuss those issues with Mr. Archibald and he can advise you. Now, as soon as we're done with this hearing, I'm going to give you a phone number to call. That's to get time to meet with your probation officer and go through the orientation with the Department of Corrections. So, Madam Clerk, if you'll give him the phone number, please.
It's 208-785-2883.
Mr. Lords, do you have any questions?
Is there somebody specific I asked for?
No, just tell them who you are and that you were just placed on probation, and they'll give you some directions.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so call them as soon as we're done with this hearing. Any other questions, sir?
Your Honor, I didn't write down the fine and court costs. How much were those again?
Court costs are $245.50. The fine is $1,000.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Archibald?
No, I'll call him after we're done and explain this further. I'm with the withheld judgment request being denied. I presume that's denied without prejudice, so we can bring it up at the end of probation.
Oh, absolutely. If he completes probation, you can make that request under 192604.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers, do you have anything else in this matter?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lords, as soon as we're done, then call that number. You're excused, sir.